Unlike most video games, horror games actually do their job if players don't actually complete them. They want to scare us silly, and the best way to accomplish that is to birth monstrous creatures that serve no purpose other than to haunt our nightmares and make us lock our doors as soon as we encounter them on screen. So with that in mind, I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 video game monsters so scary we can't even. Number 10, The Rat King, The Last of Us Part 2. While both of The Last of Us Parts 1 and 2 are about the story and characters first and foremost, they're both still pretty damn good horror games. The aggressive clickers and the monstrous bloaters are formidable terrors to fight, but everything pales in comparison to the second game's villainous Rat King. Fought by Abby late into her playable section, the Rat King is a huge mass of different infected fused together and lurking in the basement of a hospital. See, this basement housed some of the earliest victims of the Cordyceps outbreak, and those victims have been evolving unseen for decades by the point they're unearthed by the player. As a result, the thing is about as terrifying as a beast locked away for years can be, with its massive limbs and fungus stopping at nothing to take you out. It's like a Resident Evil boss, only way scarier. Well, with one exception. Number 9, The Baby Resident Evil Village. Though Resident Evil has always been one of the best horror series in the business, it's never been the scariest. It's provided frights, sure, but the franchise trades primarily on B-horror, with schlock and gore being the subgenre of the day. That all started to change with Resident Evil 7 though, which through Mia's Evil Dead-esque transformation and Marguerite-infested, bits, attempted to really focus on bringing the horror in a way the franchise had never previously. Sequel Resident Evil Village took that approach and went one step further though. See, protagonist Ethan is looking for his lost child, and his fears about that manifest in a segment where he's chased by a huge mutated fetus that's crying out and dragging itself across the floor. With the monster mostly shrouded in darkness, you only get brief glimpses at what it actually looks like, but that's more than enough to sear its image directly into your brain when you go to sleep at night. Number 8, PIGGSY Manhunt. While not exactly an otherworldly monster per se, Manhunt's PIGGSY certainly feels more inhuman than he actually is. In fact, this pig mask wearing freak left an impression in our nightmares back when Rockstar's game first came out, no doubt with a bunch of us getting a glimpse of the controversial title at an age far younger than we should have been. Now, horror games certainly do love their chainsaw-wielding psychopaths, whether that's the many infected that have graced the Resident Evil games, or even that one clown in Dead Rising, who was an absolute arse to beat by the way. Even with all that competition though, Manhunt's PIGGSY still stands out. A cannibalistic mass murderer known for donning a skinned pig's head over his own face, it's no secret to say that the inspiration here is the horror icon Leatherface, though taken to an absolute extreme. Wearing only the mask and nothing else, you're essentially up against this guy who has no shame. A serial killer whose chain is almost as big as a saw, if you know what I mean. And what I do mean there is that his chain is his penis. Number 7, Alma Wade Fear. Though it's kinda been forgotten about due to it existing in a weird time period where it's not classed as new, but it also isn't viewed as nostalgic either, Fear should still be remembered as one of the better horror shooter franchises out there. And a huge part of that is down to the terrifying face of the franchise, Alma, the dark-haired psychic who haunted us throughout the games. Like a lot of those creepy psychic girls in horror, Alma comes with her own, quite sympathetic backstory, as she seeks revenge on the people who experimented on her as a child, along with anyone else who gets in her way. I say quite sympathetic there, because once she starts ripping people apart with her mind and causing all kinds of terrifying hallucinations, it is hard to feel too sorry for her. Her appearances over the course of the games only get more disturbing, with the jaw-dropping ending of the second game seeing a grown-up Alma sexually assaulting the player character in order to become pregnant with another psychic spawn. That ain't cool, my guy. Number 6, KAERNK, Amnesia: The Dark Descent. Amnesia: The Dark Descent, while maybe a little bit quaint today, was the game that really kicked the horror genre up the arse back in the early 2010s. At the time of its release, the big AAA publishers were trying to convince players that horror games didn't sell and that nobody wanted to buy them. And then this indie first-person horror game with no combat came out and proved them all wrong. Though the entirety of Amnesia: The Dark Descent is a terrifying thrill ride, KAERNK stood out as, well, a standout monster. And also, by the way, I checked like a bunch of Reddit threads to figure out how to pronounce this name and nobody could figure it out, so please don't shout at me down in the comments. What's all the more impressive about this monster is that you don't really see this fella in the flesh, as the creature lives in water and as such the player only sees its splashes and hears its ghoulish roars. Ingeniously, the developers count on the players filling in the blanks with their own imaginations, giving the creature just enough of an audio-visual footprint that we sketch in the rest of the creepy monster ourselves. The trick totally worked though, and thanks to some smart game design, made for one of the few invisible threats that manages to stay scary. Number 5. The Mannequin Men, Condemned Criminal Origins. Indiana Jones once said, "Snakes, why did it have to be snakes?" And decades later, I'm sat here at 4:07 PM on a Thursday in 2021 saying, "Mannequins, why did it have to be mannequins?" Because really, is there anything creepier than the thought of a mannequin moving behind your back? This is a classic horror trope that somehow doesn't get any less scary from overexposure, but few titles made as effective use of it as the first Condemned game. As you take a stroll through the decrepit Bart's department store, which has been left to rot and serve as the home of some seriously dodgy people that have gotten a little bit too intimate with the mannequins there, you soon come to notice something a little bit strange about the forgotten about props. That's because these people have taken on the visage of the mannequins, and are dressing up to blend in with them, meaning that you have no idea whether what you're seeing is a creepy but harmless inanimate object, or a psychopath standing perfectly still, ready to bludgeon you to death. So you thought you saw a twitch of movement in the corner of your eye? Well, yeah, you probably did. Number 4. The Maw, the Medium. Developer Bloober Team is known primarily for their horror games, though their latest, The Medium, isn't as straightforwardly scary as the team's previous work. That doesn't mean it's without dedicated horror segments though, and the many twisted creatures you see on your journey are testament to that. The most memorable of the lot though is the Maw, a bloodthirsty demon you encounter on your trips to the spirit world. The Maw has an insatiable desire to chase down humans it can wear, using them to commit heinous acts of murder in the real world before eventually draining them of their life force and discarding them like a used crusty t-shirt. Voiced impeccably by Troy Baker, who provides the committed guttural growls and pain dialogue of the creature, the Maw is one of the most sinister beings seen in a horror game in quite some time. Number 3. The Creature Under the Bed, Visage. The entire Dolores chapter of Visage is full to the brim with pant-wetting scares, but while the creature the chapter is named after is creepy enough definitely to easily make this list, it's actually another apparition that shows up very briefly that takes the cake instead. After you've been creeping your way around the PT-inspired house at the heart of Visage, seeing ghosts peeking around doors and breathing down your neck, you'll enter a bedroom where, unluckily for you, you'll see an arm sticking out from under the bed. No thank you. Now, when I was playing this game and your friend and mine Ash Millman asked if I had checked under the bed previously while playing Visage, I said absolutely not, no way, what kind of nutter would I be to play a horror game and intentionally look under the spooky bed? Still though, seeing the arm this time around I just had to because the curiosity got the better of me, and let's just say that even expecting a big scare could not prepare me for the heart-stopping horror of what I found waiting for me under that bed. Seriously, play Visage, it's the best. Number 2, The Broken Neck Lady, Fatal Frame 2. Fatal Frame is one of those horror franchises that a lot of people might not have played, but they've certainly heard about. A Japanese horror series based around an ingenious gimmick that instead of conventionally fighting back against the game's ghosts, you have to banish them by bringing up a camera and taking a snap of them, in turn forcing you to face your fears head on. The game's arguably peaked with the first sequel. This second effort also featured a standout enemy in the woman with the broken neck, who only actually turns up for 2 encounters, but makes such a strong impression that she still appears on lists like this years later. The way her head feels like it's going to separate from the rest of her body, accompanied by the sharp sound effects and static white noise score that accentuates her appearances, is properly skin-crawling. Her slow walk towards you only makes things worse as well. Number 1, Lisa PT. We may have been cruelly robbed of getting Silent Hills in the flesh, but at least we'll always have the memories of PT. Whether you want them or not though is an entirely different beast altogether, as I'm sure some of you out there would prefer to never have to see the image of the demo's ghostly Lisa in your dreams ever again. With only a hallway and a supremely spooky character model, Hideo Kojima crafted one of the most pure horror experiences gaming has ever seen. And he did it by creatively messing with how Lisa actually worked as an enemy. That's because outside of a few jump scares where she does get you proper, she spends most of the demo observing from afar and then breathing down your neck. It's in the anticipation of what she's going to do, if anything, that the terror really comes from, as she just stands there being kind of freaky in the background otherwise. Oh, and as players found out years later, she's actually always just behind you while you play as well, though obviously because the game is first person, you never see that, you just know she's there. So that's our list. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. What do you think about these monsters, and are there any terrifying ones I missed off here? While you're down there as well, could you please give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to whatculture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.